Hi, my name's Jim Young. I've been a potter for 40 years, and I'd like to take you into my studio and share some ideas, some thoughts with you about why I like pottery and what pottery is to me. First, let me say I love everything about the studio, but in particular, I love working with the clay. The clay is truly an alive material. It's not a dead material. It's responsive, and when you work with it, you need to be a partner to it, and it will become a partner to you. I like fashioning things out of clay. I like to take a piece of clay, make it into a specified shape on the wheel, and once made, I will often alter the piece so that it takes on the true plasticity of the clay. I like to add designs. I like to add textures to the clay. And when I do that, when the next phase comes, which is the glazing process, the glazes take an interesting fashion over the many ridges and bumps and finger marks. So I glaze today mostly using a spray hood and airbrushes, so I can subtly put on as many as 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different glazes in different combinations, using the airbrush to give me subtlety. This, of course, yields tremendous results when you come to firing and submit the pot to 2,400 degrees of temperature, which will melt steel, but it will cause the various glazes to flow and move into one another and interact with one another. It's an amazing process, and the fire is the last piece. I like to make things in series because each piece, since it's not formed by anything other than my hand, is a unique and individual piece, even though they look like they're all in the same family. So when I'm ready, I load the kiln. And then I brick up the front door of the kiln. All this takes me several hours. And then I light the burners, beginning very slowly and building to a fire that's 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a dynamic process. At first it was scary, but now I love it, and look at the results that you get. So yes, I do love clay. And I'd like to think that over the years of working in clay, my forms have become more sophisticated. The forms and the glazes have both become more artistic. And now I feel like I am both a student, but also somewhat of a master of how the fire works. It didn't begin yesterday. It began when I was small and loved to play in clay. I was a precocious young man, and I was a more precocious and wondering young adult. As a matter of fact, until I took a pottery class at the Roycroft, which is where the arts and crafts period in America began in East Aurora, New York, I had no idea what I was missing and how I needed to get back to what I knew as a child. But once I found it, all I wanted to do was quit my day job and become a potter. I love the rhythms of the pottery. I like the glazing. I like the seasons. I like the fact that there was a drying season. And even in the early going, I won some prizes with my early work, which I still like today. Mostly, I like the fact that I could share with my family, because I did this in my home studio, what their dad did to work. And many of these pieces are still around today, and I still love them, even though they are perhaps more humble than the earlier ones. I liked working in the elements. I liked the seasons. And I began to develop a sense of playfulness and wonder. And now, having fired almost 400 kilns, each of about 50 cubic feet, I can say that I can look back and see the tremendous progress that I have made as a potter by experimenting with glazes, by experimenting with forms, and by being playful, mostly within the range of useful pottery, although with an artistic bent. Sometimes my wife would join me in the studio. I would make things and she would alter them, like the piece you're seeing now. Over the years, I developed literally hundreds of glazes. And the glazes and the new forms that I kept trying tended to get better and better, more sophisticated, and easier to control in the big fire. It's been a magnificent journey. I've made urns for loved ones to put their cremains in, decorative bowls. In my own living room, I have a coffee table that I made. And sometimes the fire just rendered spectacular results, and always my wife, since 50% of what we have was designed to be eaten out of or cooked in, made her creations even more beautiful. Teaching, however, has become a great love of mine. The more I knew, the more I wanted to share. And it's a wonderful thing to share this magnificent process, this magnificent art form. And some of my students have gone on to have studios of their own. As I look back, I realize that what I've done here in Northwest Arkansas is to develop a sense of community that I never had when I was working in the corporate world and moving around and staying busy in an air-conditioned office. And this community has stuck together in many cases. Yes, people come and go, but in many cases, people have been around as much as 12 years, and we've loved every minute of it. So I've had the opportunity to work with young people and old people and everybody. And recently, I was asked by a pizzeria in Rogers, Arkansas, to develop for them a wine cup that felt like Northwest Arkansas. I had to think about that, but I went home and looked out the window and looked around at me, and I realized that it's not that hard to figure out Northwest Arkansas. Our topography is rolling, it's hilly and pillow-like and gentle, and the colors are spectacular and the vistas are wonderful, and of course the seasons and the vegetation change a lot. So I developed this little bistro cup. The bistro cup is fun to hold. It's fun to drink wine from, which is an intimate experience. And mostly I feel like nature has gotten into my pottery through this little cup in ways that's almost humorous and fun. And I love every minute of it. Looking back over the 40 years, I would have to say that one of the great gifts that I have been given was the rediscovery of a unique connection that exists between my hands and my heart. I knew about this connection when I was a child. I lost it in my middle years, and I feel like I have regained it. That sense of wonder, that sense of beauty in action, the beauty in my daily life. And I feel like I'm a very lucky person to have discovered this, and I like to try to share that implicitly in my work and sometimes in my relationships with the community, my students, my teachers, and this to me is a way to live that is full and rich and with infinite variation and opportunities for my mind to work, my imagination to work, my intuition to work, all together. It is a wonderful thing, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity.